Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. Cameroon records its first COVID-19 death case. The information has been confirmed by the country's Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, and the English-speaking regions of Cameroon have recorded 3 suspected cases of the COVID-19. 2 in the town of Boya and 2 in Limbe, and administrative authorities in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country are stepping up measures to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 in Anglophone Cameroon, hit by a crisis for close to 4 years today. And Cameroonian saxophone legend Manu Dibango dies of COVID-19. He died earlier today in Paris, France. In the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, 4 persons have been killed by suspected militants of the Nigerian terrorist sect Boko Haram. Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, has announced the first COVID-19 death case in the Republic of Cameroon. The patient came from one of the most affected countries in the world, Italy. Minister Manauda Malachi said the victim came to Cameroon on the 7th of March 2020, already badly affected by the COVID-19. He died at the Yaoundé Central Hospital, where he was under medical attention. And in a tweet, the Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi, is expressing his condolence to the family of the victim and encouraging health personnel across the country. And another case of death related to the COVID-19 is that of Cameroonian saxophone legend Manu Dibango, who died of COVID-19. He died earlier today in Paris, France, at the age of 86. Manu Dibango is one of the first global stars to die from COVID-19 and best known for his 1972 hit Soul Makossa. He was good at blending jazz and funk music with traditional sounds from his home country, Cameroon. For me, Armstrong Sander reports.
On the 12th of December 1933 is born in Douala, Cameroon, Emmanuel Njeko Dibango, who will grow to be a global icon. Manu Dibango, born of a father from Yabasi in the Nkam division and a mother from Douala in the Vori division. Manu Dibango left Cameroon to study in France in 1949, where he discovered what he was born to do best: music. It was in France that Manu Dibango for the first time held a piano and other musical instruments. His music debut in France was facilitated by household names like Francis Bébé and other Afro-American stars like Armstrong and Sidney Bechet. Despite these encounters, Manu Dibango had a tough ride on the top of the world music, falling out with the father for choosing music over studies in commerce. Manu Dibango tried it in cabaret and different musical groups in France, through Belgium, Zaire and Cameroon without success until late 1960s and early 1970s. Manu Dibango clicked the winner button in 1972 after finding a winning formula through a contract with Tutti of Saxy Party and Roland Decouvre of Deco Records. In short, Manu Dibango sat on top of the world in 1972 during the 8th edition of the African Football Cup of Nations organized in Yaoundé, Cameroon, with the killer song titled Soul Makossa. Echoes of Soul Makossa hit the American continent, and Manu Dibango, through Deco, became the guest artist of every event in the United States of America, where his song will later be plagiarized by the king of pop, Michael Jackson. That was not all, as in Africa, people wanted more of Manu Dibango. In 1975, Manu Dibango was named the head of the Ivorian National Television Orchestra. Accompanied by his Belgian wife, Manu Dibango moves from fame to fame and has been living in the world of fame for several years, manifested in several awards and concerts staged across the globe. In 2015, Manu Dibango was honored as the Grand Témoin de la Francophonie and mandated by the International Geocultural Organization to represent La Francophonie values in the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And in 2017, Manu Dibango was awarded the Lifetime Award of the All Africa Music Award, known as Afrima, organized in Lagos, Nigeria. The legend Manu Dibango is no more, but lives on.
The Cameroonian saxophone legend becomes the first global star to die of the COVID-19. He will be laid to rest in France. The French authorities reported to have refused the repatriation of his corpse back to Cameroon. And now the Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi, and the Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sade, expected to grant a press conference today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, to give updates on the situation as far as the coronavirus is concerned in the Republic of Cameroon. 10 new cases were recorded in the country today, and Cameroon has already recorded more than 50 cases of the COVID-19, and authorities in the southwest and northwest regions of the country are taking stringent measures to prevent the spread of the virus. 3 cases have been detected in Anglophone Cameroon, 2 in the Boya and 1 in the town of Limbe. The information was made public today by the Southwest Regional Delegate of Public Health, who confirmed that the 2 cases are under medical attention in the Boya and the Limbe regional hospitals, and the 2 cases have been confirmed by public health authorities. In the meantime, in the Njan division, the senior division officer Fowang Lawrence is taking higher measures to prevent the spread of the virus. He has banned completely bars and of course other areas of other sites of entertainment within his area of command, among other measures. Derek Jato reports.
Coronavirus. You still have an option now to save the lives of those who elected you into office. Fowang Lawrence, the senior divisional officer for Njan Division, begged the municipal authorities of the 9 councils that made of Njan Division not to only spread the government measures to stop the coronavirus in their municipalities, but to also supervise its implementation.
And it is not only you alone. It is you, the mayors, alongside the other municipal councillors. We speak, sir.
Cameroon, as of the time of this report, had 56 confirmed cases of coronavirus, with other regions like the Littoral and the West region joining the center as affected regions in Cameroon. The news was enough to tell any person anywhere in the country that lives are at stake. Fowang Lawrence, the senior divisional officer for Njan Division, is meeting with all the divisional officers of his division, the forces of law and order in Njan Division, mayors and their deputies, in a consultation meeting in Mundemba, the divisional headquarters of Njan Division. The wash your hands condition with no exception before getting into the hall, the 1 meter or so distancing of one chair from another, and the traditional handshake roll out, and the non-exchange of microphone in the hall were alone sending another message that nothing is the same.
All of us are called about to adopt serious hygienic measures.
Apart from insisting that the basic hygienic practices must be respected, the senior divisional officer for Njan Division ordered for the closure of drinking spots all over Njan Division.
Shut down beer parlors. No person should be seen drinking in an off-license. No person. Total lockdown of off-license. No music, no chair, no food inside off-licenses.
Adding that the lives of his people are important, and that the forces of law and order will supervise the implementation of these measures now, not later, for the coronavirus is running faster than any technology on planet Earth.
And this ban is not to punish anybody, it's for the good of all of us. I want to thank you very much.
And the governor of the Northwest region, Adolf Lele-Africa, has taken stringent measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus within his area of command. In a decision, he has ordered the closure of the border with neighboring Nigeria, and movement in and out of the Northwest region has significantly been restricted. Adolf Lele-Africa said defaulters could be prosecuted according to the law. And before the country recorded the first COVID-19 death case earlier today, the two first cases were successfully treated at the Yaoundé Central Hospital and discharged there in their homes, and medical officials or medical experts are following them up. And in the extract coming up next, one of the consultants, the medical consultants at the Yaoundé Health Central Hospital, Dr. Eugene Sapngui, tells us what they did to the two patients, what they administered as treatment to the two patients, and how the treatment unfolded.
Concerning those cases, say that it was a teamwork. It was a teamwork, both at the level of deciding what to do and at the level of implementing what we had decided. So we were coordinating a whole team that actually obtained that result by God's grace, who were watching scientific information on a daily basis so that we could adjust what we had to do. That was number one. Number two is that we were working as in a collegial way. We were meeting almost every day to consider all the parameters, all the existing knowledge to adjust the treatment. And for that we were the doctors of the hospital, but we also invited colleagues from the university, the Department of Internal Medicine at the Faculty of Medicine of Yaoundé 1 and the Department of Intensive Care. We all invited them and we had to discuss on what to do. And what was important is that we have staff there with doctors, 5 nurses and hygiene staff, with I would say minute by minute monitoring and reporting of all the parameters. And we did all possible tests, including CT scanners of the lungs, so that we could see the lesions and see how it progressed. And in terms of treatment, we did what we call personalized treatment. We as individuals, we are unique, and you cannot treat me as you would treat yourself, because we are different. It's just to quickly say that there are lots of protocols on WhatsApp, and people would think, okay, it's easy, you just do what is written there and it's over. Chloroquine. Yes, our first 3 patients were all very different one from the other. Very different. You could not treat the 3 patients the same way. And this has to be clearly said. Medical field is about diagnosis and treatment. And a treatment has to be in parallel, in accordance with the diagnosis. There is the diagnosis of the disease, but there's a day-by-day diagnosis of the situation. And the treatment must be tailored to the situation. It must be tailored to the patient. And actually, one key of this success was the tailoring of the treatment to these patients. Yes, some of our patients received chloroquine. Yes, but that was not all. It was really like 10% or even 5% of all what we had to do. Yes. Some of the patients are receiving 5 different types of medications at the same time because of their current status. You have patients in whom you give only one type of treatment. You have patients in whom you give no tab.
And there is a debate going on across the world now on chloroquine as a potential treatment of the COVID-19. Some medics are presenting chloroquine as a potential treatment of COVID-19. However, the medical expert who spoke in that extract, Dr. Professor Sapngui Eugene, indicates that chloroquine was administered to the patients, but it constituted just a meager percentage of the treatment that was given to the two first cases in Cameroon who were successfully treated. And the outbreak of the coronavirus in the Republic of Cameroon is causing prices to skyrocket in markets across the country. And our reporters visited some markets in Lum, in the Mongo Division littoral region of the country, where buyers are complaining of increasing prices. Immaculate Fogwe.
Some of the measures that were taken by the government of Cameroon to help contain the spread of the coronavirus in the country is having a drastic effect on the prices of commodities in markets. The hike in price of these basic commodities has now become a veritable nightmare for inhabitants. Things have become very difficult for us. Before, we used to buy a bag of rice for 20,000 francs. But right now, it is being sold for 21,000 francs. A carton of mackerel fish, which was normally sold for 20,000 CFA francs, is now sold for 25,000 CFA francs. That which was sold for 31,000 CFA francs is now sold for 40,000 CFA francs. It is really difficult for us. A cup of beans is now sold for 500 francs. Before, it was sold for 350 francs. Many of these women now spend several hours in markets in search for the cheapest commodity, yet their shopping bag remains scanty. I came here with my shopping list, but I'm unable to purchase the items because of the hike in price. I'm just blocked in this market. The traders justify the hike in price to one of the 13 measures taken by the government of Cameroon. The closure of our borders is what is making things very expensive for us. If it continues like this for 1 or 2 weeks, then Cameroonians won't be killed by coronavirus, but rather by hunger. In a bid to fight against the hike of prices in our different markets, the Ministry of Commerce has sealed a number of stores for failing to respect the normal price tax recommended by the ministry. The ministerial order further indicates that buyers who fall victim of any attempt to increase prices should report through a toll-free number 1502.
And the coronavirus pandemic is also affecting seriously sporting activities. Competitions have been suspended, and in the report coming up next, Manjikan Gabriel takes a look at how players are spending their time during this period of no competitions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. His report.
It is at the football pitch of the Rehabilitation Center in Bepanda that players of Union Sportive of Douala, an Elite One club, used to train. Unfortunately, the field is void of players and officials of the club due to the outbreak of the corona epidemic in the country. Équinoxe Tv moved to the residence of one of Union's players, Loïc Fedje, who spends a majority of his time indoors.
Le championnat est arrêté à cause du virus corona.
For now, I can say we are unemployed and waiting for the federation to lift the suspension for us to train and play our games normally.
La fédération puisse lever ce programme et qu'on puisse continuer à s'entraîner normalement et jouer les matchs. Évidemment, on ne peut que faire des régénérations, c'est-à-dire...
I spend my time at the gym and do a little exercise in the evening. I hope this is not going to last for a long time.
J'espère vraiment que ça ne va pas durer parce que c'est embêtant du fait que tu ne peux pas vraiment t'entraîner comme il se doit professionnellement. Tu ne peux que courir et jouer avec des amis au quartier. Je pense que c'est trop.
Since we can't do things as we used to do before, a majority of my time is at home. And at times, friends come to see me.
Jusqu'au soir, il y a certains amis qui viennent souvent ici me rendre visite et on passe la journée ensemble.
The Sikam football pitch at the Cité neighborhood is also a training pitch for another Elite One club, Bambutus of Mbuda. The field is also deserted as no player or team official is seen. The head coach tells us how the team is working during this period.
On a arrêté les entraînements en fonction de la pandémie qui est.
We have stopped training because of the corona epidemic since we can't be indifferent from others.
Nous ne pouvons pas rester indifférents de cet événement-là. Il était de bon ton qu'on arrête les entraînements et qu'on attende en fonction de l'arrêt officiel engagé par la fédération. Par le gouvernement.
We can't train with players staying away for a distance of 2 or 3 meters.
Il est tout de suite difficile de faire un entraînement où les joueurs ne pourront pas se toucher.
We have been sending training programs to players through our WhatsApp forum.
À suivre, déjà on a donné un premier programme sur cette fin de semaine qui vont essayer de respecter, on espère.
Some other players have decided to do early morning jogging and light training exercise in the evening to keep fit.
Ça nous fait un peu du bien parce qu'on repose un peu le corps.
It is a good thing because we are resting our body, and it's not good because everything has been suspended. We no longer walk, and it's bad for a footballer to remain home without walking. Every morning I do jogging, and also in the evening I do little stretch up.
Manjik and Gabriel reporting there. Senegal and Ivory Coast have declared states of emergency over the COVID-19 outbreak. The president of Senegal, Macky Sall, said that the state of emergency will start today at midnight, accompanied by a curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time. The military and police have been ordered to execute the measures. The announcement was made in an address to the nation today. Macky Sall acknowledged that the country was struggling to contain the spread of the virus. Senegal has 79 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Eight of the people who have been confirmed with COVID-19 have recovered, and more than 1,500 people who are suspected to have been in contact with the suspected cases have been tracked down. President Macky Sall announced that $1.5 billion solidarity will be made available, and response fund will also be made available. $80 million will be devoted to emergency food aid. $80 million for emergency food aid. And in Ivory Coast, President Alassane Dramane Ouattara said the government will introduce gradual confinement measures and a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. local time from today. He ordered the closure of all bars and ban unauthorized movement between the capital, Abidjan, and the interior of the country. And in Kenya, 9 more cases of the coronavirus have been confirmed, bringing the total to 25 confirmed cases. And greater details in the following extract of the Kenya's Health Cabinet Secretary, who is giving some updates. Take a listen to Mutai Kagwe.
Fellow Kenyans, in the last 24 hours, a total of 82 samples from suspected cases of coronavirus have been tested in various laboratories. Out of the 82 samples, we have received confirmation of 9 people who have tested positive to the coronavirus disease. This brings the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Kenya to 25. These confirmed cases are spread out in 4 counties, namely Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale. Out of the 9 confirmed cases, 7 are Kenyans, while 2 are foreigners. And of the 7 Kenyans, 3 have contacted the virus from close contact or previously confirmed cases, while the 4 others have contacted the same from countries that are affected with the virus. The new patients have already been taken into isolation in our facilities and are being monitored by our medical personnel together with others previously turned positive. Tracing of contacts for the new patients, as well as those of the previous patients, is ongoing.
Kenya's Health Cabinet Secretary giving updates on the coronavirus in the country. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that his country will go into a lockdown for 21 days from March 26, 2020 at midnight. In Algeria, the country has already recorded 230 cases of coronavirus and 17 deaths, while Italy is suffocating by coronavirus, Now, in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, 4 persons have been killed by suspected militants of the Nigerian terrorist sect Boko Haram. Some were beheaded and others saw their body being decapitated by the attackers. Equinoxe reports.
Tufo village in the far north region suffers a deadly Boko Haram attack. Several fighters of the jihadist group carried out the bloody attack here Sunday night, breaking Monday. They killed and destroyed. This inconsolable woman, for instance, witnessed the shooting to death of her husband alongside 3 other persons, executed with 1 decapitated. They arrived at 1 a.m. while the inhabitants were asleep and began terrorizing them. Others escaped. Those held were executed. Some, like his father, was beheaded. They went with the head. They went from house to house, looting and killing 4, including 3 adults and a 13-year-old minor. Tufo village in the Mokolo subdivision in the far north region is regularly attacked by Boko Haram fighters. The inhabitants keep imploring help from the military. We want the military at every corner.
Talking Point is up next. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in Talking Points. We are receiving first to my left a medical expert, the chief medical officer of the Sodiko CMA Hospital. Is that?
Yes.
Dr. Ayafo Eric, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And to my left, or to my right, a politician and legal mind, Barrister Ashu Emmanuel Agbo, National President of the Reform Political Party. Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel Agbo, you're welcome.
Thank you, Babila. Good evening, televiewers.
All right, we're going to be talking about the COVID-19 pandemic that continues imposing its own way on Cameroonians, killing 1 person already and killing a global star, Manu Dibango. Barrister, you heard about the death of Manu Dibango today.
Yes, it's quite disheartening, that despite what we are living, Cameroonians seem to be going on with business as usual. I want to call on Cameroonians to sit up, because this is no joking matter. And I want to ask the government, because our government seems to be applying cosmetic measures. I mean what I'm saying, because apart from the government communicate from the presidency and just from the prime minister, you go down to the field, you don't see any thermal camera in any government office.
We'll come to that in a short while.
Yes, we have to sit up, because first, this is no joking matter.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a short while. First, what do you remember of Manu Dibango?
Well, it's really terrible, because this is a great loss, and it has happened at a time when we cannot even receive the corpse here for proper burial. You see, this is an icon in world music. It's not just only Cameroon music. This is the man who has made African music respected all over the world. So it's really sad that he should die in this type of circumstance.
Doctor, one of the greatest stars, music stars in Cameroon and the African continent, and why not the world at large, saxophone legend Manu Dibango killed by coronavirus. How did you receive that news?
Yeah, I'm aware of the news. It's actually a great loss to Cameroon. But since the virus does not select, it's just to make us be aware that everybody is prone to this particular infection.
All right. Doctor, as a medical expert, what do you think about the evolution of COVID-19 in Cameroon from 1 case to 2 cases to 27, 56 and more? Now we're talking about 1 death already recorded in Yaoundé and 3 other cases detected, suspected cases in Anglophone Cameroon. What do you think about the evolution of COVID-19 in Cameroon?
Yeah, the virus actually is evolving geometrically. We have put in place so many measures by the minister, but I think that they are not actually being practiced by the population, and the cases actually are increasing at a very, I don't know, it's actually have the impression that there are still many more cases still undetected, still under the ground, which have to be searched for and tested. And because Cameroonians still don't believe, and also want to also think that maybe some are not having the ability to receive adequate information at all the corners, because I actually even learned that in areas like in the southwest, some places don't have electricity, so it is normal they don't receive information. And not to count of areas still without televisions. We have been talking about the TVs, we have received messages on social media, and everybody have access to Android phones and even TVs to have information. So I think that the number is increasing because of ignorance, and it's increasing because of poor application of measures put in place by the government, and maybe verification still.
And many Cameroonians are violating the measures put in place by government and even the sanitation measures of the World Health Organization. Many are not even aware of the measures. Some are quarantined, they were escaped from quarantine. Some deliberately refuse to apply the measures.
Yeah, that's the problem that we are facing in Cameroon. We always, Cameroonians believe that when they talk of quarantine, you must have pain. They believe in consultation only when there is pain, when there is fever. They don't believe that even when they talk of the 14 days of quarantine, it is a moment where you are also very contagious. And at that particular time, though you present no clinical signs and symptoms, you are also at a very great risk to the population. And running back home to your family, you see it is their families that are actually being a victim of circumstances that they were not supposed to be actually outfit. And now many are understanding why there was the minister trying to communicate to the people. And I was very happy when I saw communicate going even in English language. So happy that at least everybody could read and everybody could understand from the ministry. So if it is continuing in this same manner, I think that something has to be done so quickly.
There is a problem of ignorance. You mentioned that, and that's why you're here to edify the public. Before I turn over to Barrister to talk about the management of this coronavirus in Cameroon, which seems to be raising lots of questions, people highlighting lots of loopholes and flaws in government's management of the COVID-19 pandemic. What are the symptoms? What are the symptoms? Let's go to the base so that those who are still ignorant about this thing, when they see the symptoms, they may know, and they may know exactly what to do. The symptoms of COVID-19.
Yeah, the symptoms of COVID-19, actually, they are most of the common symptoms you have in most upper respiratory tract infections. Primarily, we talk of fever, that's temperature above 37.8 degrees. We have equally sore throat, you can have an equally difficulty in breathing. Now, the cough is very particular in the diagnosis. Cough and the fever, these two symptoms are the key symptoms of it. But in case where the disease might also has a possibility of presenting other symptoms like you have fatigue, muscle tiredness, we could also have some presenting with some case of diarrhea. Some could also have congestions, nasal congestion, but that's not very common. But when it progresses seriously in some patients who present so many risk factors like the old people, above 50 years old, those who have underlying complications like diabetes, pregnant cases, HIV or cardiovascular diseases, they tend to present the most severe form of it by having respiratory distress, which is a very one of the capital symptoms that is difficult to manage in the disease. So those are the key symptoms: temperature and the cough, which is dry cough. Let's distinguish it because not all the cough, so we should not be confused with the cough we have around. Productive cough, we also have the dry cough. The dry cough and the fever should always call to our attention that there is something wrong in our health.
And immediately, what should be done when you observe these symptoms?
Yeah, when you have these symptoms, I think the minister calls us to call the emergency number 1510 is important. It's not to rush to a particular health center and infecting other places. We know Lakentini is there to attend to cases, which we have. If you find any cases, please try to call. Or even if you have no access to media, etc., I think you can contact a close person who can call and give you orientation. I think medias like this can help to orient many patients or cases to know that cough and fever, Lakentini is best placed to handle the cases.
That is for the case of Douala. And
yes, in case of Douala.
Yaoundé Central Hospital.
In case of Yaoundé Central Hospital, I think when you call that number, they'll give you the full orientation by locating you and linking you to the closest center where you can be managed properly. To avoid you, firstly, because if you have to move around and struggling in the movement, I think you will have to be picked up right from your home at the closest center so that you can reach, because not anybody can
infect other persons along the way to the hospital. Barrister,
yes.
Doctor was highlighting a problem of communication, flaws in the communication as government's communication strategy on the COVID-19.
Well, I think it is not just a matter of government communication. You see, the problem that happened in Italy was that the measures that were decreed were not respected at all. Quarantine. In Italy, they asked people not to move around. Italy never respected it. People were moving around just as I see Cameroonians moving as if nothing were happening. You can now see what is happening in Italy. There is a total explosion, 3,000 plus deaths. I don't know, we want to reach that level before we start getting up from our sleep. In Cameroon, the government is not seeming to be serious about this management. Now, doctor was talking about the medical measures that they are taking. But you will remember that when you go around, government offices are all open. They are open for business. The police stations are still dishing out convocations to people to report for investigations. Gendarmes are doing the same thing. The court sessions are going on. How do you expect to contain this type of pandemic when there is still movement of population? People are still intermixing. If a patient comes in and goes into one of these offices, he will contaminate everybody. Please, we cannot manage this if we are not serious about the management of the crisis. They should stop the movement of population. The last time I said here that they should impose compulsory quarantine of people coming from outside, they said Cameroon had no means. Today they are doing it. If we don't want this country to be above Italy, we have to be serious. I want to tell Mr. Prime Minister, Kondengi is a time bomb. Newberg prison is a time bomb. If one case of corona enters Newberg, we shall be above Italy. Why should the government not contemplate serious measures like freeing those prisoners to avoid catastrophe? Because if one case enters Kondengi or Newberg, those two prisons are about 20,000. Italy is just at 3.
They should be freed?
They should be set free. You should choose between life and death. Corona is no joking matter.
No, you're talking about the movement of persons within the
if you don't free them, you don't free the prisoners. Their relatives go to give them food, they go to visit them. If there's a contaminated one, all of them inside they will die. What do you prefer? To have 20,000 deaths or to have 20,000 healthy people who are outside and whose cases you can review after? I think measures should be taken. Serious measures should be taken by this government. Now, the government has not taken any measures to ensure that people who go to the courts are safe. In Bunaberi court, the state council took his own money from his pocket and bought a thermal camera that is being used to test people who are entering the court. Other courts, nobody is doing so. The government should call the elites, call the companies together if they don't have the means. Tell the nation that things are bad. Let us sit together, come out with money to buy those cameras, buy mobile vans that should go around the quarters. Every case of fever should be suspected. They should test these people before they kill the entire population. They should not wait for to get to
Senegal and Ivory Coast have announced complete lockdown as from midnight today.
That is a better solution, sir.
Of South Africa also announced a complete lockdown.
Ghana did the same thing. It's the same solution. It is a nice solution to put in place. You cannot contain a pandemic by allowing people to mix up. You cannot. There is no way. We don't have the means of France. France gave money to for landlords and electricity bills to be paid. Cameroon does not have that money. Please, we don't lose anything by containing this virus in a way that is going to give us results. We cannot contain it. If we continue to carry out business as usual, it's not possible. We shall go to a state where Italy will be a joke. The government has to be serious. If they don't have money, I am saying they should call the elites and the companies to bring money so that we buy all what is needed as equipment to test the people. Now, in the quarters, you say people are sick, they should go to Lakentini. Is there any quarter in Douala here that has the medical facility to test and testing?
He said they should call so that they can be picked up right from their homes, because moving from their homes to the hospital, they may contaminate other people.
The health centers in the quarters should be equipped to test the people before you can think of even go to Lakentini. But there's no such equipment. That's the trouble. The government doesn't have the means. They should call on the elites. We have had coup de cœur here. Call the people. The elites, even if it's one franc, we can chip in something that can enable the government to buy those equipment and they test the people and stop this thing from killing the entire nation.
Doctor, how should Cameroonians behave? How should the people who are on the Cameroonian territory behave at this very crucial moment? We're talking about indiscipline, which is a serious problem that is also affecting other African countries, including Kenya. The Health Cabinet Secretary was talking about this today, indicating that many Kenyans are indisciplined, and it is the case in Cameroon today.
Yeah, I think that when they will be aware of the case of death that were recorded in Cameroon, I think that will call the attention very importantly, because the people believe that it's a disease of the sick, of the rich people. That's the first mentality. And secondly, they don't believe that it was actually true. Now that the thing is spreading to other regions now, firstly, it will call the attention. And secondly, if the government is putting in rules and regulations, it is only the government. They also put into practice also at the population, because the government will not come every day door to door to push you to use a hand sanitizer in your house. That's a simple measure you want to take at home. Even if the health system or the government is weak in what way, but I think that we should not give up in the fight, because I think there's a collective fight by everybody at every point. We talk of hand sanitizer, we talk of avoiding overcrowding. I don't think if they mention 50 people by the ministry and you are number 49, in that quantity you are still not safe.
And talking
you
about,
are still not safe in that number. So it was just a method of separating the population away from guarding themselves. Why will you be going out in a church service, for example, of 40 people because they never mentioned church service, for example? Or will you go out in a place where, because the government never insisted on this particular point? But I think the information is clear. Avoid the overcrowding, because the virus is very contagious. It will not even need only a crowd for its contagion. It needs even just a closest person who has been in contact with the virus. So even if we are just 2 persons, still the crowd is not a problem. The 2 persons is enough to infect you and you can carry it back home. Those who escaped from the quarantine at the airport, that's the first error that was made because of the bad nature of Cameroonians. They thought they could use false documentation to prove that they have been tested elsewhere, negative, so they have the right to come in and they sneak and they escape. And now, who are the first victims? It is their families. So the problem now is that Cameroonians first should understand the fact that this thing is real. And it is true that the coronavirus is present here. And we are not able to contain a lot of cases when they enter into the critical state of the disease, which means that they have respiratory distress where they might need respirators. We don't have enough respirators.
That's very important. Professor Somgwe said it's very expensive to take charge of patients who have contracted coronavirus. The hand washing sanitation measure. Many people are complaining that the taps are running dry across the country.
Well, with all due respect to the medical experts, you see, when you are talking about a respiratory ailment, then you say people should wash their hands. You forget the part of the body that is concerned with the disease, which is the nose and the mouth. I would have preferred to put more emphasis on the wearing of surgical mask, because they say people should not greet. If you don't greet, then there is little risk of transferring the disease by hand contact. So I think in areas where people are suspicious, wear a surgical mask so as to reduce the possibility of you inhaling the virus. I mean, if you're in a hall where there is the virus circulating, you go and wash your hands. You have not done anything, because you will inhale it and it's going to kill you.
All right, Barrister, we are coming to the end of this edition of the news, and there have been emphasis, of course, Doctor, on the putting on of mask, but those who are putting on the mask, or those who want to do so, should consult medical officials or medical experts to advise them on the type of mask and how to use
wear
it,
the mask,
and when and for how long to use it, and all of that. And of course, there are other measures. There's a series of measures that have been laid down by the World Health Organization, and measures taken by the Cameroon government to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. And the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, is calling on all Cameroonians to put hands on deck to bar the way to this common enemy, the COVID-19. The President of the Republic, in a tweet recently, called on all Cameroonians and all persons on the Cameroonian territory to be more responsible and disciplined at this very crucial moment of the country's nation, so that we can bar the way to COVID-19. And that's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Barrister Ashu Emmanuel Agbo, Dr. Eric Ayafo, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.